Power Rangers! We're not talking about Power Rangers. I don't know what else to tell you, so... So, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You know them, I know them. They're a 90s pop culture icon in the States. The show itself was a mixture between an action superhero show and a high school sitcom, and came with monsters, robots, spandex, adults trying to pass off as teenagers, and the gloriousness that be Bulk and Skull. Bless these two. It's also a well-known fact that a lot of the footage for Power Rangers was taken from a Japanese show. But how many of us actually sought out to watch that show? Well, that's something we're going to be discussing today as we celebrate another year of Tokuvember, where we talk about tokusatsu in the month of November. Because Thanksgiving doesn't really give us much to work with. And of course, this year's Tokuvember will be focused on the show that made Power Rangers, Super Sentai. The franchise itself started in 1975 with Himitsu Sentai Gorenja, with the main premise centering around a team of colorful heroes working together to stop the forces of evil. And like I said before, we're going to be focusing on the season that Mighty Morphin primarily used the footage from, that being the 16th installment of Super Sentai known as Kyoryu Sentai Zyurangers. Now, to be honest, I've never actually watched a Sentai before, except for maybe the first season of Akiba Rangers. I'm more familiar with stuff like Ultraman and Kamen Rider. And so because of that, I'm going into this looking for two things. One, how does it compare to Power Rangers? And two, is this a good introduction to Super Sentai? And with that, let's begin this year's Tokuvember as we take a look at Kyoryu Sentai Zyurangers. Cue the special effects. So the story of Zyurangers starts with a space exploration, where Japan's top astronauts are heading to a planet known as Nemesis. Also to note, they brought children along to this dangerous expedition. I can't see anything going wrong with that. I mean, if you run out of food or being chased by an alien, you have options. So the team lands on the planet and finds an ancient seal, in which they accidentally open it and release the evil witch Bandora and her goons. There, she proceeds to blow the two astronauts away into the vacuum of space, never to be seen again. Dear Lord, they're dead. And then decides to shrink the kids and the spaceship together before heading to Earth to claim that she will destroy humanity. This of course catches the ear of an old man who turns out to be the ancient wizard Barza. Think of him as the Japanese Zordon, but... no, that's basically it. He's just Zordon with legs. But with the world in danger, he decides to call on those who can help. And he does so by summoning the great power of 5 ancient warriors from the dinosaur era with attitude! And these here are our heroes, warriors from different tribes who worship the great guardian dinosaurs, such as the Tyrannosaurus, the Triceratops, the Pterodon, the saber-toothed tiger, the mammoth, and finally that's a dragon. That's a dragon. That's a fucking dragon! Okay, sure, why not? But you're forgetting my favorite dinosaur of all time, Mothman. Because if a mammoth and a dragon can be dinosaurs, so can he. But now that our warriors of Geki, Goshi, Danboi, and Mei, which, yes, those are their names, I don't think I'm having a stroke, are fully awake and are ready to challenge the evil witch Bandora at her castle. And then, okay, who the fuck put LSD in my cough syrup? So after that, the warriors have their backs against the wall until Barza appears to give them their dino medals, and allows them to turn the tides by transforming into the Zyurangers, which grants them the ultimate armor known as spandex. and allows them to wield the greatest ancient weapon forged by the gods themselves, a gun. But even with the great power of hot lead on their side, the Great Witch Bandora seems to have an ace up her sleeve with a giant monster. But of course, we've been through this song and dance before. When there's a giant monster, there's gonna be a giant mecha, and that comes in the form of the guardian beast Tyrannosaurus. And after a great and fearsome battle, they thwart the evil Bandora and save the children from being small. Also, this happened.
Japan, everybody.
So much like its Western counterpart, Zyuranger is a Monster of the Week show, with the grand majority of the story revolving around children. Oh joy, I am in hell, there is nothing but moppets. So a good amount of the episodes, we meet up with a new child every day that is either living life or having problems. Only to cut to the witch Bandora going, "I woke up today and chose violence!" And then has her lackey make her a monster to cause problems. These problems range from stuff like stealing everyone's food, turning children into trees, or just straight up chemical warfare. Just Bandora doesn't fuck around sometimes. But don't threat because the Zyurangers are always there in the nick of time. Mainly because after watching so much of this thing, I've also deduced that the Zyurangers have nothing really better to do outside their lives in battle, so they just kind of hang out with children for some reason. But regardless, the Rangers will take on the evil villain of this week. With each one they annihilate, either using the team's legendary super gun, or by summoning their guardian beasts to form the Mighty Daijujin. And really, that's the show. It's just kind of, monster comes in, the Zyurangers show up to defeat the monster, they defeat them, rinse and repeat for the majority of the show. However, this season has some overarching narratives, just not really in a lot of episodes. Some episodes revolve around the last of the dinosaur eggs, in which the Rangers just lose those a lot. Then we get a few episodes that involve around the evil, then not so evil, Green Ranger, who turns out to be the leader Geki's long-lost brother, Burai. And he's slowly dying. So yeah, there are some overarching plots, but these type of narratives do take a back seat to the wacky monsters that the Rangers have to face every week plot.
And wacky is the best way to describe the show. I've always heard that Super Sentai was a lot more lighthearted than its contemporary Kamen Rider. Like, even in the most campy of seasons like Forze, Kamen Rider is still grounded. Super Sentai, however, it's not just lighthearted, it's batshit insane. And just makes the best out of context material that you'd ever see. Just take a look at these clips. Oh, I don't like that one.
And the unhinged campiness doesn't end there, as it also fits with the theme of this series. Now, when I say theme, I'm mainly talking about what the overall story is based on. For an example, Kamen Rider Drive is themed around race cars and police detectives. So for the Zyurangers, we have the themes of dinosaurs, which is a first for the Sentai series, and fairy tales.
Surprisingly, out of everything this show has thrown at me, this fact was the only thing that actually threw me aback. Does explain the rapping pumpkin, though. No, it doesn't. Nothing can explain the rapping pumpkin.
So yeah, Zyuranger is based on folk tales, fairy tales, and even other fantasy stuff. Like you got Circe, based off the myth of the goddess that turned people into pigs, turns out to be a giant pig head. Then there's the genie from Aladdin, who in this show is a dog and is friend to all children apparently. And that's just a dude just as Frankenstein, what the hell. And the theming of fantasy is also prominent in our main cast, as they consist of knights and princes. And princesses. I don't know a good plural to describe both at the same time. Oh, and speaking of the Zyurangers, let's talk about them, because as characters, they're basic. Like, have you ever heard of the 5-man band trope? They're basically that with a few minor extra details. The Red Ranger Geki is the fearless leader of the group, with the added bonus of sibling issues. The Black Ranger Goshi is the serious warrior, but is also kind and caring. The Blue Ranger Dan is the most immature but uplifting member of the group, so he's definitely my favorite. The Yellow Ranger Boy, yes his name is Boy, is the youngest of the group, and then we have the Pink Ranger Mai, and she's the girl. Yeah, their personalities are superficial, but I will say, for the show that we got, they do kind of work, and they are enjoyable to watch. It's kind of like He-Man. The character himself is not that interesting, but god damn it, it's fun to see him fight the bad guys. And much like He-Man, the villains are the ones that steal the show. Starting with the main baddie herself, Bandora. Her main ambition is to destroy humanity from the face of the planet because she despises stuff like love, joy, and anything else that is good in life. So just like your average Twitter user. But most importantly, her main goal of motivation is to cause the death and suffering of children, as she cackles and sings to the heavens on how much she absolutely hates them.
Hi, yes, Children's TV, the only place where you get to see villains commit heinous atrocities, and their only reasoning behind it being, fuck them kids. I kinda like it.
And of course, we also have her minions, Top Hat and Bookback. For these two, just kind of imagine Scratch and Grounder from that one Sonic show, and you kind of know what you're getting at here. Then we get Pleppercon, the stingy bird goblin that creates all the monsters for Bandora. And of course, we get the main man himself, Pandora's main general, Griffizar. Griffizar. Griffizabutapakata. Goldar. You know I had to make that joke at least once. Goldar is the dragon of the group, the one Bandora sends down when there's not really a good monster to really pester the Rangers. And interestingly, in the first fifth of the show, he doesn't speak. He just does like grunts and stuff. But no, it gets even more interesting, because after he gets the ability to speak, we then learn that he's actually married to another general named Lammy, in which they're both very lovey-dovey every time they're on screen together, and even way later in the series, we learn that the two of them now have a child.
Hey kids! Yay! Remember Goldar from Power Rangers? Ah! Well, he fucked.
And of course, we do have to mention the Green Ranger, Burai, who is the first ever 6th Ranger in the franchise, and he's probably the most interesting character in this. His and Geki's biological father had to give up the latter to the king of the land, who desired an heir and couldn't get one. This led the father to then raise an army and try to revolt against the king, which led to Burai witnessing his death by the king's hands. Riddled with rage, the young child vows vengeance upon the king, and after the king's passing, he turns his sight to his own brother. Now with the power of the dragon and a dark sword given by Bandora, he becomes a very powerful adversary against the Rangers. Or at least until Geki goes,
somewhere deep down in my heart, I still love you.
And then he's a good guy. Also, he gets teleported to a void every now and then, and is told that he will die in 30 hours if he ever leaves the room, so, You won't be seeing him that much. And besides that, we get a lot of side characters, like Barza, who's just the wise old man. Then we have the Guardian Beast, who are apparently gods, and are massive dicks. Like, there was an ancient civilization that was tricked by a monster to eating golden fruit, in which then the Guardian Beast got mad and turned them all into monkeys. And even after risking their lives to protect a bunch of eggs, which later went down a stream, the Guardian Beast just wanted to punish them more before the Zyurangers come in to go, dudes, the fuck? And that's what made them back off. No, these guys are assholes. And of course, we get a bunch of children each episode, and oh, Gnome. Gnome is badass. He's a fairy that helps out the Rangers from time to time, but he's also an asshole. He even admits that he's an asshole. So like, instead of giving the Rangers a magical MacGuffin that they need to stop an evil pig, he makes them work for that shit by having a giant feast, and just kind of enjoys seeing them in agony of trying to finish. I think I like this guy. Also, he tries to kill a child with guns.
Violence towards children is funny.
So now that we talked about the characters themselves, let's talk about what they wear. After all, the best part of Toku is the suit designs, and for the Zyurangers, yeah, that's just the Power Rangers. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I feel like it's a little hard to really analyze and critique a design that we really kind of know by now. It's kind of like trying to explain the costume of Spider-Man. You can go as far as you can, but at some point, you just have to go, it's Spider-Man. What else is there to say? So, yeah, they're the Power Rangers. They got cool-looking masks. I like the green one's design because he has armor, and that's it. There's not much to say. Except maybe question what the fuck is with the diamonds. Like, honestly, that's something I didn't think about until this review. What the hell does the diamonds mean? Just let me know in the comments if you know. But even though I don't have much to say about the suits themselves, I can talk about the Rangers' civilian attire, because, yeah, these designs are pretty fire. To be honest, I actually find their regular suits a lot cooler than their Ranger suits, because they actually look like heroic warriors from a fantasy game, with Geki being my favorite design out of all of them. Also, shout out to Goshi and his large shoulders. What's going on there, buddy? And of course, if we're going to talk about the Rangers, we gotta talk about the mechs, and, it's the Megazord. It's just the Megazord. Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna do that this time. I like the Guardian Beast designs well enough, and Daijujin is a pretty sleek mech. Like, what I find cool is, if it weren't for the boots, you probably wouldn't know that this was a combiner. It's really that sleek. But of course, come on, let's be real, Dragon Caesar is the best design. I mean, when you're based off the Big G, you know you're good in my book. Of course, we do have to mention the ultimate Daijujin, and, can you say clusterfuck? And for the other side of the spectrum, the villain designs range from a lot of killer designs like Goldar to these guys. I mean, it does fit with the theme of fairy tales for some of them to look a little dopey, but it's really kind of funny that we get designs like Skeleton Warrior and the Black Knight to Goblin, the Chicken, and, for God's sakes, that's just a guy dressed as Frankenstein. Someone threw a cheap Spirit of Halloween costume on him and called it a day. Whose idea was it to...
Oh! Oh, I thought this was a kid's show!
Hey, don't you love it when you're watching Power Rangers and then suddenly you get a fucking Resident Evil boss? And would you believe me if I told you he gained this form through the power of Satan? Because, you know, for kids! But yeah, overall, the suits are neat. A little silly at times, but it fits. Still, it's not at the same level as Starfish Hitler. Because nothing will be at the same level as Starfish Hitler. And really, now it's kind of my job to remind you every Tokuvember that Starfish Hitler was real. Someone said yes to this. But of course I can give some brownie points. After all, one of the big bads of the show is named Great Satan. You know, for kids.
And by all means, that's the Zyurangers for ya. And to answer the question of whether or not it's worth watching if you're an OG Power Rangers fan, well, it might not be for everyone.
Watching this, there were just many moments where I felt some sort of culture shock, and it made it kind of hard to disassociate from the American version. And let's be real, this show can get weird, like, really weird, and I know that can easily be a turnoff for many people. And it's also to note that Power Rangers actually has a lot more episodes than Zyurangers, and mainly that's because Saban actually commissioned more footage from Toei that would later be referred to as Zy2. And the reason I'm bringing it up here is because I don't really know where else to put it in this video. Oh yeah, and the Zy2 footage also includes the rapping pumpkin, so we can't really blame Japan for this thing.
Ooh, you Rangers make me mad! Waking me up with a rap that bad!
But as for the other question, as this is my first real introduction to Super Sentai, does it pique my interest to check out the full series? Yeah.
This season may not have been the best from what I hear, but I enjoyed what I watch and I'm willing to check out more in the future. I've enjoyed the lighter toned Toku, and let's be real, the unhinged insanity kept me wanting more. Like, what can they do to top Inflation Clown next episode? How about Murder Child with a forklift? That's good. If you ever wanted to get into Super Sentai but don't really know where to begin with, then Zyurangers might be a good place to start. It'll be weird, especially with the existence of Power Rangers, but if you look past that, you might enjoy it.
And that's this year's Tokuvember. I'm Davkav. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good Thanksgiving if you celebrate that, and I don't know how to end this one. So here's Pandora singing about how much she hates children.
子供は嫌いだ、いじめてしまい、ナップを見てるとうっとりぞくり。私の魔力で子牛にするぞ、あばらなパチンも気にしてやるぞ。
Yeah, fuck them kids!